Welcome to this Innovation Delivered session. I'm delighted to be hosting today with four great panelists. And today we're going to be looking at signal and strategy insights. How do you get seen? How does the internet work? We've got some great speakers, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce myself to those that don't know me. So I am Chris Dawson. For the last 19 years, I've been editor-in-chief of Channel X. But don't worry about me. The people you're going to really want to hear from today are Chloe, Jason, Dustin, and Darren. So welcome, guys. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Dustin, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Dustin Holmstrom, Field CTO at Shopify. This is week 8 for me at Shopify. Previous to that, I've been a CTO of professional services and on the client side a few times. So thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. And Jason.
Yeah, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. This is Jason, Retail Geek Goldberg. I look after commerce strategy for a big marketing services company called Publicis Group. And if anyone's going to explain how the internet works, that's going to have to be Dustin, not me.
And Chloe, welcome.
Hey, great to be here. My name's Chloe Thomas. I am the host of the e-commerce master plan podcast. Been in e-commerce for over 20 years now, and just am here to help you guys know what to do, or try to help you work out what to do.
And finally, but not least, Darren, welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Darren Lynch, the founder and CEO of Irish Titan. Like Chloe, I'm a grizzled e-commerce veteran, like all of us, really. I used to say I'm a dinosaur by e-commerce standards, and then I realized that's a bad analogy because dinosaurs went extinct. So converted to referring to myself as a grizzled veteran. My first e-commerce project was in 1997 when I helped launch Office Max's very first e-commerce site, and then I started Irish Titan in 2004. And we build and grow e-commerce channels. So we're building websites with technologies like Shopify, and then we're growing our merchants' websites also with technologies like Shopify and many others.
So I want to get straight into this today, and there's going to be three main things we're going to talk about. Going omni-channel, how to stand out amongst the noise of the internet, and looking at growth with precision. So I'm going to dive straight in with omni-channel and ask, what are the key components of a successful omni-channel strategy today? And how can brands also ensure alignment across platforms without overwhelming either their own teams or their customers? So, Jason, let's jump straight in with you to start with. What are your thoughts on going omni-channel in today's world?
Yeah, so I recommend against it. Slightly tongue-in-cheek. I'm not the biggest advocate of the word omni-channel because it does emphasize, in my mind, the wrong thing, the channel. And I think the spirit behind going omni-channel is delivering the experience the customer wants wherever she wants it. And not trying to dictate or keep track by particular channels. And so my biggest advice is to create some analytics and metrics that measure the value of the customer and all of the touch points that she has on her way to a purchase decision, and look at all of these experiences through that lens rather than through the lens of well, here's my cohort of customers that are web shoppers, and here's my cohort of customers that are store shoppers, and here's how I move them from one to the other. I'm less interested in that, more interested in the organic, cohesive customer and all of her needs.
And Chloe, you and I have known each other for like best part of 20 years. And we started off in the UK specifically. There was eBay, there was Amazon, and that was about it. There are so many channels now, from B&Q to Tesco's to Temu, Shein, Debenhams, you name it, that we kind of caught up with the French in the number of channels we've got. A bit like in the US, where you got eBay and Amazon, but you got Macy's and so many others. How do you advise people to cope with channels?
I mean, for me, it comes down to simplification, which sounds kind of crazy when you're creating all this complexity with more channels, but simplification of systems, simplification of strategy. So basically making sure your team know what you actually are trying to achieve on each channel. You know, what is the role of the different channels, but also having systems that make their lives easier. There is so much you can now do with putting the systems in place so the product data is correct, the information flows automatically, and so much you can do with technology now that just makes everything easier. So your team aren't copying and pasting or trying to rewrite the wheel every channel they come across, but rather focusing on the levers that they can pull to grow the sales on those channels and then to look after the customer, as Jason was talking about.
And Dustin, coming to you, obviously Shopify is a fantastic platform, but there's also Miracle nowadays. How do you advise your Shopify shop owners alongside the Miracle platform to decide which marketplaces, how many marketplaces, where to start?
I think that's an interesting question. When you talk about omnichannel, there's so many different channels, right? And it's where are your customers at? Where are they today? Where are they engaging you? You know, Miracle via marketplace is one. Your traditional .com is another. But also, where is it growing? So spinning your question a little bit, right? Marketplaces have been around for years, and we've seen traction in them. But where we're really seeing traction these days is in the generative section, where you're seeing people shopping on Perplexity and shopping on ChatGPT. And there's over 120 million active users on ChatGPT shopping in a conversational interface. So thinking about what that next channel in the omni-channel looks like on top of those, you know, more emergent ones like Miracle as a marketplace is where we're starting to have those conversations. And how do we engage those customers? Not just thinking in one channel, but trying to think across it for that brand, that retailer, that vertical, what fits them best, and where do we optimize their spend and effort. Everything is finite, time and money, so that how do you get that greatest return on investment?
And Darren, from a brand's perspective, we're talking omni-channel. We've only talked about online at the moment. We've kind of forgotten that there's also a high street out there. What would your advice for brands be on where to start and how to be in the right place for the right customer at the right time?
Yeah, you know, it can always be a challenge going sort of last on a question and still finding some ground to cover. But I think that one thing that comes to mind is I liked how Jason kicked off with comments around concerns around the term omni-channel, because I think it should be omni-optional channel, right? The term omni-channel sort of implies being in all channels. And so he raised that point, and then both Chloe and Dustin made some points that flow into my perspective, because each of the channels have different pros and cons. And we've talked about branded sites, we've talked about marketplace, talked about ChatGPT. We didn't mention social yet, at least not by name. You just brought up store, you know, so there's bricks and clicks in a variety of places, and each of them serve different purposes. Some are better for top of funnel, some are better for conversion, some are better for brand reinforcement. And so if I put myself in a brand's shoes, I want to familiarize myself with each of those channels, how they serve each of those roles, and then I want to optimize for that. Not every platform needs to do everything. And so knowing what you might post in a marketplace, whether it's an Amazon or an Etsy, to create maybe some brand awareness, a subset of products that then you can use to drive people to your site for a broader array of products. Maybe social is what you use to really drive brand awareness. You know, I think that those different channels all have different strengths, and that's the first place to start for a brand to be successful in navigating those.
So I've got to say for myself, the place I want to be a brand on is the channel I happen to want to shop on today. But that naturally opens challenges, and I'll be interested in all of your thoughts on how does a brand kind of make the experience the same, whether I happen to have hopped onto the website or hopped onto an Amazon or a Debenhams, or whether I'm in their store. Do prices need to be the same everywhere? Does the shipping experience need to be similar regardless which platform I buy on? And just how can a brand manage sort of promotions across multiple platforms, some of which may not even support all of the same features? So you might be able to do a buy one, get one free on one platform that's not even supported on another.
I don't mind wading in on that one. I mean, it's a huge topic, isn't it? It's like, my immediate reaction is to say you should price match across everything. But then I think about my own experience as a consumer, and I'm perfectly willing to assume that I have to shop around for the same brand at the various places I buy from. You know, the same cat food brand was the most recent one I did it with. And I didn't expect it to be the same price on Tesco as it was on Pets at Home. I mean, admittedly, those are retailers, not marketplaces, but I'm not sure the consumer expects price matching between eBay and Amazon and Walmart and Tesco Marketplace and everywhere else. I think they expect their understanding of there being a difference between them. I think it's more important to understand what the levers are that work on those different sites. So if you're selling on your own site, you're probably putting more story into the mix. You're probably trying to build more connection with the customers. You might be talking about your Facebook community. But on your Amazon page, it's features, benefits, deals, key information that's actually going to get that conversion very, very quickly. So I think we have to think about how these channels behave in different ways when we're deciding how we're going to buy across all of them. Or sell rather across all of them.
And Chris, if I could chime in as well, the thing I like to think about is, well, first of all, some of these channels are channels we own. So you ask how you get consistency and how some of these are channels we own. When we launch a Shopify site, we own it, and we get to make all of the decisions. Many of these other channels are channels we have to earn. We're amongst a billion other products for sale on Amazon, and Amazon decides what the product detail page looks like, not us. ChatGPT decides what the product tile looks like. Perplexity, TikTok Shops, all of these things are earned channels. And the reality is, while marketplaces are winning in the world, and Amazon, Mercado Libre, Alibaba are the biggest retailers across the globe, the marketplaces are really a customer acquisition channel for brands, not an owned channel. And so the job to be done on each of those touch points can be slightly different. If you're a brand, the job to be done on Amazon is to win search amongst the billion other products that are competing for that search algorithm. But when you're on my own webpage, the job to be done is to become a loved brand and build this long-term sticky affinity. So I'm not sure the experience has to be identical across them, and I actually would argue making it matching the experience across all these touch points would be a race to the bottom. You would have to go to the lowest common denominator. But you do need to make sure that you have the same scent across all of these touch points. You have to make sure that if there are core features of your brand that make your brand stand out and be differentiated from all these other products, that core offer is reinforced and is extremely apparent across all these different touch points. So to me, it's less about we have to match price. To be honest, the best high street retailers don't even have the same price in their store for a month in a row. And we're seeing more and more dynamic pricing and personalized pricing. So across all these touch points, it's really about being adaptive and figuring out what each customer wants and giving that to her in the way that's appropriate for that particular channel and the job to be done at that moment in her path to purchase.
And I think that leads us really nicely into our second session. It's a section standing out in the scroll, kind of with all the digital noise that's out there. How do you make a brand memorable in 2025? How are the top brands capturing attention and building trust? And Jason, staying with you, I know you've been talking about the traditional playbook just not working anymore. We used to know how to merchandise a high street shop, but just doesn't work online, does it?
No. I mean, my flip answer for how to stand out is have all the consumers' cars catch on fire and then have your Stanley Cup survive the fire and have there still be ice in it after the fire. That's a lovely way to stand out as a brand. Although there may be some liability involved in doing that on purpose. I'm not certain in every geography. But I do think that standing out today is more challenging. The audience is more fragmented than ever before. They're entertaining themselves and spending more time and across many more touch points. There was a world in which there were 3 television programs on at the same time, and you just had to pick which one or all of them you wanted to advertise on. Today, I think there's 1 trillion shows just on Netflix at any given moment. And so in that world, one of the best tools that I really like for brands to build themselves and stand out is to let customers talk about us instead of us talking about us. So I'll call that influencer marketing, and I'll be even a little more specific. I'm not trying to hire celebrities to talk about me, although Gwyneth Paltrow did a pretty good job this month. But I want to talk about consumers that are like the consumer I'm trying to help talking about me. And so that's getting people to talk about me on TikTok, getting people to talk about me on Douyin. That's about turning all my associates that work in my high street stores into influencers that are creating content talking about all my product. And that content has much better reach. It's earned content. At the moment, the robots are greatly favoring that content. So it's a great tactic to rank better in Perplexity and ChatGPT as well. So for a lot of reasons, influencer marketing is one of the big plays I would be leaning into right now.
And Darren, I know you like to talk about storytelling and going rogue. What's your advice for brands that want to stand out?
Yeah, good tease, because that's what I was going to start with. So my answer to this is by going rogue, and I'll explain that a little bit more, but it's a little bit of a different take, or at least building on what Jason just said, because we do live in an era where there are a gazillion sites. Right now, the difference between the era we're in now versus this e-commerce 1.0 era, as I refer to it, is I think that in previous eras, it took a lot of time, talent, and treasure to build a site and keep the lights on. And so the percentage of merchants that achieved that was much smaller because they didn't have the time, talent, and treasure to get there and then invest the marketing dollars to create different sorts of experiences and offerings, right? Well, now today, through the benefits of technologies like Shopify, it's a hell of a lot easier to build a compelling site. Now, it still takes a lot of effort. You have to have some vision and strategy, and it's not free, but it's a lot easier than in years and eras past. So that's great, except for if you're doing it, the likelihood that your competitors are doing it is now much higher than it used to be because it's easier for everybody. So what happens is there's this myriad panorama of these compelling sites that they all end up looking alike, even though they're compelling now with a lot of the best features and functionality. So the way to stand out, the way to not be beige, because nobody really likes a beige brand, is to go rogue, meaning add voice to your site, add user-generated content, really lean in on founder point of view, those sorts of things that maybe have like ritualistic language, right? That creates sort of some stickiness to your brand. You can do that so much easier and go rogue while still maintaining good familiarity and comfort in the parts of your site that people need to trust. You don't want to go rogue in the checkout, right? Like consumers want a consistent, confident checkout that they're familiar with. You don't want to go rogue there. But maybe your category pages, your product detail pages, you can really get creative there in ways that are much easier than they used to be. So you're standing out from all the other compelling sites that you're now competing against. That's my going rogue theory.
And Dustin, you're the guy that does keep the lights on. There are hundreds of thousands of Shopify stores. So I'm going to ask the question, when I open my Shopify store, it looks the same as everyone else's. How do I stand out in the crowd?
Yeah, right. It looks the same. Everyone trusts the purple shop pay button, right? To Darren's point, don't mess with checkout. Keep it standard. I think I look at it a little different than how do you stand out? How do you make sure you don't erode trust? Trust is very hard to create. And so making sure that there aren't negative interactions. Give you an example. Last week I bought a new travel backpack. I already purchased it. Why am I being remarketed to? Why is it continuing to show up? close that circle, mark me down, stop marketing to me, right? There's no reason to continue that ad spend, to continue going on through, that purchase journey that I've already made. So it's a negative buying behavior that detracts in the future. It's not like I buy luggage all the time either.
Yeah.
Right? So,
if I bought a travel bag, show me something I might want to put in the travel bag, maybe a traveling razor kit or something.
Yeah, be thoughtful about your customer journeys. It is very, to Darren's point, it's very easy to create a commerce store on Shopify and to have a universal experience. But how do you create that special sauce or go rogue or enable something that is memorable in a positive way, and be thoughtful about that and diligent about that and groom it? It's like spring cleaning. Every once in a while, you've got to clean out these campaigns and customer data that you're marketing to, and not just let them run in perpetuity.
And Chloe, I've saved you for last on this one because I know you are the SEO 101 guru. But look into the future. What are your thoughts on how a brand can stand out going down the search route?
Oh, search is a tricky one at the moment. Can I add something else as well? Because I think, so listening to everyone's answer, I totally agree with everything that's been said in answer to this. I think the big thing which has been missed off is once you've got that UGC content coming in from the influencers, from your customers, once you've worked out your story and you've gone rogue on the website, it's time to go rogue and take those great comms to untapped channels. That could be direct mail. It might be billboards, it might be TV advertising is coming back, somewhere where the waters are less murky and where there's an opportunity for you to cut through. It might even be great parcels and parcel inserts and that kind of stuff. So I'd say that. Coming to the SEO side of things though, and I think where we're seeing the shift now as we look at AI and that impact on SEO, both on the SERPs pages, the search results pages on Google, and in terms of, as Dustin was saying, the people buying on the ChatGPT, etc., is we're now in a place where we are being, if we want to win, we're being forced to do what we should have been doing all along. That seems to be what AI is hitting us with every couple of months. And in the SEO side of things, it's getting your product data and your product pages nailed. If we've got that, which if we're selling on multiple channels, we should do as well, but we need to be feeding the information to the AI bots so they know who we actually are and what products we're actually selling. So it's the structured data, but it's also the vibrant data, so product descriptions more than 2 lines long. And then another one, which I only learned a couple of days ago, which was recommended to me by a retailer in the UK, was they're investing heavily in advertorial across newsstand, newspapers, magazines, etc. So editorial content that they've paid for and dictated or collaborated on what goes into it, because that's also ending up being fed into the LLMs, which therefore is giving a more broad and richer side of their business to the AI bots that is going to help, we think, take them up the likelihood of being the thing that is mentioned when the question is asked. So nitty-gritty product data and then some of your marketing spend on advertorial is where I would go at the moment. But that might change in a week. Add that caveat.
This is really interesting because it's going back to the basics of SEO, just having the structured data in the right place, but also the advertorial. It's a bit like 20 years ago when we were all paying to have a backlink of someone else's website.
How long that door stays open, we shall see.
But tying that in with Dustin, what you said about the customer data, I absolutely hate going on a marketplace. I went on a marketplace once and bought a bed, and all that was advertised to me for the next month was, do you want to buy another bed? And I'm like, the bedroom's only big enough for one bed, guys. Show me the duvet, the pillows, the curtains, the bedside table, the bedside lamp, anything for the bedroom, even pajamas, except for a new bed. So I think it's always been difficult to cut through the noise and stand out in the scroll. But I'm super excited about LLMs or AI chat, whatever we call to use it, the Perplexities, the ChatGPTs of the world. Jason, do you think people like the man in the street, my next door neighbour, the lady that lives the other side of me, are they really going to be using ChatGPT to buy their Christmas presents on this year, or is this something just for techie geeks at the moment?
Oh gosh, Chris, predictions are very difficult, especially ones about the future. So I'm a little concerned, but one knucklehead's opinion, I think they're very important. Is Darren already alluded, the growth rate is already astronomical. Like we can throw out big numbers, the billions of queries a month that OpenAI is now feeding the 300 million users. It's still, I am careful to remind people, it's still quite small in the overall scheme of things. All answer engines combined are cumulatively, more than 300 times smaller than Google search alone. So they're growing very rapidly, but from a very small base. We always see new things, and it's always easy to say, oh my gosh, every consumer is going to adopt this. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I notice we're not all wearing Apple Vision VR headsets and watching 3D TV at home. And yet, all of us are routinely doing things that would have felt like science fiction just a few years ago. I will say here in the United States, it was, Prime Day sort of kicked off the back to school season, and, Amazon with their Rufus engine, and Walmart with Sparky. Millions and millions of consumers are using AI and answer engines to have a better shopping experience than they've ever had before every day. And maybe the first people to do that are tech early adopters, but they're telling their neighbors right now. They're telling their aunts and uncles. They're going to go to Thanksgiving supper, and they're going to talk about all the shopping problems that AI solved for them. Immediately after this webinar, I'm getting a dishwasher delivered, and AI made the final decision about which one I would order, and it was extraordinarily helpful for a difficult considered purchase like that. So if I had to guess, I think it's very important. I think it would be foolish to assume it's going to fail. So at the very least, I would be thinking about how I'm going to be a fast follower, and I would certainly encourage you to be testing and learning right now.
And Darren and Dustin, Darren, I want to come back to you in a second and ask how you go rogue on AI, or is it too soon to go rogue on AI? But Dustin, as CTO of Shopify, you've got to be thinking about how AI search is going to impact Shopify shop owners.
Oh, absolutely. And just to be clear, Toby's still our CTO. I'm a field CTO.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So two things.
Who's better at StarCraft, though? Are you better than him at StarCraft?
God no. So like Rufus at AWS, right? That's leveraging an LLM. At Shopify, we've created a storefront MCP that brings together your product data, your inventory data, and it gives you that LLM enhanced MCP interaction where you can really facilitate everything with a customer in that same sense. At the same time, outside of it, to answer your original question, will there be shopping on generative engines? Absolutely. And the reason I think there will be is it takes away the pay to play. It's pure knowledge. There's no paid advertisement. There's no SEO inside it. It's really what product data matches your query closest. And so it's the great leveler for some of these early brands that are fighting for that front page on Google. There isn't any of that. It's just which product is the most appropriate for what I'm looking for today. So I think as that matures, what the UI, UX, and the interface looks like, it's not what it looks like today. I mean, think back to Darren and what was it, Office Max or Office Depot in 1997? That UI changed. But I think the back end behind it has largely stayed the same. And that's going to, again, prove itself out as we get into generative shopping.
And Darren, again, for you, any thoughts? And I also want to start thinking about our third topic, which is growth with precision. And how can anyone have any precision on an AI chatbot at the moment?
Right. Yeah, I'll try to land the plane on the going rogue with AI. I don't think we can go rogue because we don't have enough firm footing yet on AI, right? I don't think you can go rogue until you know what you're going rogue against. And the challenge with AI societally is how rapidly it's evolving. Because, if you think about the impact on workforce and social and that sort of stuff, which I know isn't the point, but like the challenge is how fast it's unfolding there. And in our world, I think that is your neighbor or my farmer dad, I grew up on a farm, is my farmer dad going to be using agentic AI to buy things in 3 to 5 years? Probably not. But is he going to be influenced by how that's unfolding today? 100%. Without a doubt, we're all going to be influenced by that. The shopping experience is going to be evolving and be influenced by the way people are engaging now. Another one of my sort of theories is this commerce anywhere concept, where I think as long as consumers exist, commerce is going to exist. It's one of the reasons I'm bullish about our industry, even though the technology keeps changing, right? As long as consumers exist, commerce is going to exist. So what we need to do to navigate that is continue to leverage technologies to help merchants meet consumers where they are, right? That's why branded sites were the first place to start, then marketplace, and then social. Voice commerce, I think, is going to evolve. I don't know how widely it'll be adopted, but it's going to evolve. Agentic, AI-driven commerce is going to evolve. So what that future looks like, I'm not sure, but we're definitely going to be impacted by it, and then we'll be able to go rogue once there's a little bit more of a firm footing to operate on.
So growing with position, it's got to be about how we use customer data and automation to scale, but hopefully without losing authenticity and brand values. But tools and tactics, what's most effective right now? Chloe, I know you're all about the algorithm. How can we get this growth and really hit home to the right customer at the right time?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the way the ad platforms are evolving, I'm talking Meta and Facebook here and TikTok as well, is that not that TikTok's evolved to this, TikTok started off like this, but it's less about how we get really clever at the targeting and how we get really clever at our bid strategy, and more about how we feed the algorithm the right information to deliver good results for us. And that drills down to kind of the two disparate ends of the process. So on one hand, you need to be really great at your attribution data, or events as they tend to be called on the platforms, and be sending all the right signals back in so the algorithm knows what's good. So we're talking different page views, we're talking checkouts, we're talking add to baskets, all that rich data, so the algorithm knows what you actually want it to do and it's getting the right data. There are some scary stats about the number of businesses who actually have terribly set up analytics. So do not sit there thinking yours is all right and it's feeding the right information in. It almost certainly isn't, based on the stats I've seen from multiple sources in the last month. And then the other end is almost the polar opposite. So you've got proper geeky techie stuff down here, and then over here you've got the creative. Jason earlier on was talking about how getting the influencers to talk about your product really is delivering at the moment. So is your own content, if you know the messages that are resonated to by and reacted to by your customers. So if you're putting in ads that you just created and slapped up there, then it's not appealing to the people who you want to go the whole way through the funnel. So the algorithm's getting the wrong messages and they'll do a bad job for you. So you've really got to drill into the creative that actually appeals to your target customer. And then once you started to get that skill set right on the algorithm driven activity, then you can bring it in to your website, to your email marketing, to your other channels, to your offline channels, because you've accelerated the performance of your comms messaging and you've got much better at your data. So if you comply with Google and Meta, theoretically your whole business should get better. Don't quote me on that, anybody.
Yeah. And Jason, coming to you, how do we make retail personal again? There's like 7 billion people in the world. They don't all want the same things.
No. Well, so my high level answer would be with fundamentals. That, like, there are so many shiny baubles. There's so many advanced things we talk about, and we forget to get the basics right. And this panel has perfectly highlighted that. If you think about all of the retargeting ads, and there's been a simple tool on all these ad platforms from day one called exclusion lists, and these insane marketers aren't leveraging the exclusion list. It is not even the first inning of the digital transformation of retail yet. And so we're still all awful at all of this stuff. And what we really need to be thinking about are the fundamentals. My favorite retailer of all times is in your backyard, Chris. It's a hat company called the Lock Hat Company. That's almost 200 years old. And they built their name by knowing all their customers personally and servicing each customer. And then annoyingly, London exploded and there were too many customers to know personally. And so my answer, how do we do this today, is not to try to serve all 7 billion customers. Of those 7 billion customers, there's a small handful that are potentially super valuable to you. So you should be thinking about what's the small subset of that world that could be my most valuable customer, and what does she want? And if she wants something different than the next one, then so be it. Let's personalize it and figure it out. But if those 1,000 customers all want the same thing, then let's just deliver that. Like, let's keep it simple and not get overly distracted by every new shiny bauble, because we're just not good at them yet.
And Dustin, this kind of feeds back to what you were saying earlier on the Shopify about weeding out the data, and when I bought a bed, not remarketing another bed to me, which has got to be kind of the one of the basics of personalization, surely. But what does the future look like for personalization, and how can we? Basically, we all want growth, but how can we target these messages to the right consumers at the right time to get the position we need?
I'll use your bed example. What you can't do is call it a sleep pod, because from a generative perspective, they're not going to do the translation from sleep pod to mattress. You won't be found. So if you personalize your product so much that I, as a consumer, can't use a standard name for it, you're just going to fall off the radar. So making sure that you're visible, back to the basics, like Chloe said, right? Making sure that you are using the right terms that I'm looking for and not crafty marketing language is going to help me make my personal decision. I think it's all about the access to the right information at the right time. And that means not just trendy buzzwords, right? It's kind of the basics, and looking at that underlying data and making sure it's good and foundationally sound. I can't tell you how many organizations think they have good data until they get into trying to do a CDP or some of these generative experiments, and it is a disaster.
And Darren, coming to you, I know we're running out of time, so this will probably be our last comment. But for you, growth with precision, where does it start? Where should we be looking to end?
Yeah, I think that, a lot of good points have been made, so I want to try not to be redundant, but your data hygiene is really key. I think that the keeping things simple and aiming for the basics is really, really smart right now, because having been in the industry a long time, we've been hearing about personalization forever, right? And I would liken it to a unicorn back in the day, where you kept hearing about it, but it didn't really exist. Now I would liken it to a narwhal, which is an actual animal that exists, but is rarely seen, right? And so I think if you just aim for personalizing and executing the basics using good, clean data and some of the tried and true apps and technology solutions that are out there, then you can provide a good experience where you respect your customers, but don't exploit them.
So Darren, Jason, Dustin, Chloe, I want to thank you all so much. But I think there's one more thing about omnichannel shopping we need to do. And I'm going to drop a slide up with some links to ShipStation, because the real way that we connect with our customers through any online shopping or in-store but home delivery is when the item actually arrives. So if you want to start a trial with ShipStation, you can get a 60 free trial. If you want to talk to them, they're more than happy to speak to you. And don't forget that as part of Innovation Delivered, we've got a ton more sessions coming up throughout the rest of the day. So please hang around, check out the agenda and attend some more sessions. But once again, thank you to my guest panelists today, Darren, Jason, Dustin and Chloe. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers all.
Happy commercing.